Hello, babe. So I don't know what happened there.
It's all right. The signal's bad for everybody, I
Oh,
think.
it's been terrible. I think so many people are using their devices. Even my home Wi-Fi has been terrible, and 4G's now become 3G on my network provider, and that's just been so hit and miss as well.
Yeah.
So where
Where
was
did
we?
where did I leave off? I don't know when it
But
cut
we were
off.
talking about self-isolation and kind of lockdown and everything. So you kind of
Yeah.
normally, so Dancing on Ice would go October to January. Is that right? Ends about then?
Yeah, October until March actually.
Until March, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Starts in the new year. So you kind of would be used to having that little break after.
Mm. But what's been difficult is not being able to leave the house and not being able to see my friends, not be able to get home to see my family. And I woke up last week and I had had enough. And I've been very vocal on social media just about how we have to stay home, and I am more than happy to stay home because this is the only way that we're going to get through this, as quick as possible. But yeah, but we have to allow ourselves to have bad days. We
Yeah,
have to allow ourselves to feel down and to recognize that and to be okay with that, because we're in a time right now that the world has never seen, that humanity has probably never seen anything like this before. Um, and for somebody like myself, who's a workaholic and a control freak and somebody that likes everything put together perfectly, it's I just kind of have to just go, okay, you
yeah,
know
I
what?
hear you. I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's so, and it's so strange you were saying like yourself and your friend last week. I've had a couple of them days. I suffer anxiety generally anyway, even though I know a lot of people that have never suffered are kind of getting it recently, but that's only to be expected with everything we're all going through because we're completely living life in a way that we never have. We're all out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
And this has become our new normal for the time
Hmm.
being. And I've had a few days and put a couple of posts up on social media because I'm a big believer in kind of being dishonest with my feelings and my emotions. And I'm very aware that it's not just me that's feeling like that. Hence why setting up this page, Isolation with the Nation, to have somewhere for people who are either feeling lonely, if their anxiety is getting bad, if they're sick of binging for 12 hours a day on Netflix, just being able to interact with someone, although it's virtually, I think it's so much more healthier than just watching films back to back all day.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it has been, it's really been hard. Some days have been hard, and unfortunately, we've lost someone close to the family. Just Thursday, just gone. So that's all
Oh
still
no.
to the coronavirus. And it's just so strange how, to me, something we'd never heard of a few months ago has come in, disrupted the world, basically,
Yeah.
everyone's lives. It's taking so many lives. Um, and it's something we still relatively don't know anything about. But
No.
all we do know is we have to listen to the guidelines we're being given, and staying in is paramount, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm fortunate enough. Well, even like on Dancing on Ice this year, we had Dr. Tom who had skated with Lisa George. And he's been a lifeline to me because as much as I appreciate the government here in the UK and, not necessarily President Trump back in America, but the local governments of the state governors, and the city mayors and city officials. Um, I've been relying on my friends that work in the healthcare industries, for the information because, it's one thing when the prime minister or the president or the governor says, "Hey, stay inside." You don't know necessarily what their ultimatum is. Do you know what I mean, or where their motivation is behind all of that? But then when you hear the doctors talk about it, and I spoke with Dr. Zoe, who's a TV doctor on this morning, because I did sport relief the weekend that this all kind of came to a head here in the UK. I think it was like March 20th or something. And I spoke with her in great length over what was going on and what her thoughts were on her whole sort of idea of what was going to happen. And she hit the nail on the head. I mean, she knew that this was going to last for a good couple of months. She even said that she thinks isolation will probably go through till June, um, which, you can't, it's hard to hear that, but at the end of the day.
Oh, you're back.
Okay, cool. So I think I've been relying on my friends, my doctor friends, and my physician friends for a lot of my information and sort of the truth behind what's going on. And what we're seeing on the news is the truth. There is a lot of chaos right now. It seems to be settling down, and I think we are flattening the curve by all means when it comes to self-isolation. But the charities that are, well, as we saw, if you guys saw the news today with all the healthcare workers in the care home industry, they've been forgotten about, and it's really, really sad. Jane Torval put up a post yesterday asking for anybody that had any sort of PPE to her local care home. I believe that one of her parents is in. They've run out, and I know that the frontliners need it by all means, more so than anybody, but we can't forget about the trickle down within the medical system. That the people that live in the care homes and the workers, they need it just as much as anybody else. So it's interesting. I think not only are we learning how to deal with this new normal, but the government is, our doctors and our nurses are learning how to deal with it. And as long as we all keep communicating, especially with what you're doing with this page, which I think is absolutely incredible, we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy, but we're all going to get through it.
That's so true. And that's the thing. And the sooner everyone listens, and I think the majority of people are, and that's amazing. And as a nation, we can get through it together. Like you say, it's not ideal. And I can see the temptations there for people, especially when it becomes a weekend. It's really hot. They want to be out with family and friends in fields, having parties. But so many of us know that's not possible, and we're not doing it. And it's such a shame when you see a handful of people doing it and letting the rest of the country down, really, or the nation,
Yeah.
because them actions are not only keeping us on lockdown probably longer because people are seen to not be taking it seriously, but there's also the most important thing of it all is there's the potential that you're spreading disease further than it needs to be. This virus is so contagious.
Yeah.
And there's 4 or 5 different groups of friends all meeting up in a park that aren't living together. It takes a matter of seconds or minutes, I imagine, to pass something on, and then they go back, and then that's how things are getting out of hand. So if everyone's listening to the guidelines and
Yeah.
stay at home, unless it's obviously for the shop runs and your hour exercise. I mean, I'm taking full advantage of getting out of the house for an hour, doing my exercise every day, because that's good for my mind. Going back to the mental health thing slightly, I feel so much better after I train.
Well, it's scientifically proven that when we exercise, that our bodies release endorphins, and it's a chemical that your body naturally produces. And that's why, for me, growing up as an athlete, now that I don't compete anymore, and I'm not skating from April until kind of September, October throughout the year, and I do have to keep my physical fitness up just for my job, but also for my mental health. When we exercise, our body produces these, what we call happy hormones called endorphins, and they make you feel better. They do. It's proven. It's 100% scientific proven. So even if you live sort of a sedentary life to where you watch a lot of TV, and when you work, you're sat at your desk, once an hour or once a day, if you can get up and just do 5-10 laps of your house or walk the stairs 2 or 3 times, you will feel better. 100%. And I've always said too, if your heart healthy, you are happy. So, it's there's so many different factors come into play when we are isolated like this, when we are sort of stuck in jail within our own homes. But I was talking with a friend of mine last week, and for me, I've been utilizing that 1 hour to exercise every day as well. And the other day I walked 8 miles, and then I took a Boris bike home, which I had wipes with me, and I wiped the bike down before and after. So that is something that we all have to think about now,
Definitely, yeah.
But it was, anyway, she had said that she had done 10,000 steps, and I was like, but did you leave the house? And she was like, no, because it was where she was, it was raining. And she walks her house, and she walks 10,000 steps every day in her house. And she doesn't have a large house. Like it's quite a small two, what do they call it? Two up, two down.
Upside down, yeah.
Yeah. So she just walks in circles all day, but
It
it's
shows you
keeping,
that it's possible then to
yeah,
still get your steps in without leaving the house.
yeah, absolutely. And I think though, and I've always said, you know, with people that I've worked with before, kind of on their fitness goals and kind of making themselves feel better about themselves, that first step is always the hardest. But as soon as you stand up and go, you got to turn your brain off because everything in your body is going to tell you that you don't want to do it or that you don't have the energy to do it. But as soon as you switch that brain off, switch that voice off, and just take that first step, next thing you know, you're done.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel, and I'm sure so many do, so good after. Don't get me wrong, you're knackered.
Yeah,
And if there's been leg day and that, you feel it the next day. But the feeling you get afterwards so overrides the pain while do you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
so worth it. And for me, as I say, it's not even about how I look on the outside now. It really is just to clear my head. And I also kind of get a similar thing, obviously not so much the endorphin because I think that's more I'm getting that in the gym when I'm training.
yeah.
But for if I'm having an anxiety day, I'll go in the kitchen and I'll bake something, or I like
Hmm.
cooking or organising, tidying. I'm very like I like to have my tidy bits and I'll organise things and I'll write lists. And I think it's putting for me anything that's in my head I like to put on paper. I write things down, and I think that's a really good technique to
Hmm.
kind of try and do. Like I sleep with a pad and pen by my bed.
Yeah.
And even though it's only been written onto a pad, I think something happens when it leaves the brain and then leaves your hand. And I find
It,
that really good. And that's all I mean. Obviously, I'm not medically trained. I'm not a doctor. But for me, all I get so many messages asking, what do you advise? I certainly can't advise for anything or prescribe what you can do. All I can ever do is kind of let you know what I do and what works for me. But what
yeah.
works for me might not work for others. But there's so many things you can try, even breathing techniques. And there's some great apps out there now that you can get on
Mm.
your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think too, like you said, writing things down. If you can create a normal day for yourself in a very weird world right now. We're all longing for structure. We're all longing for contact and things to be able to check off your list because some people like myself, we're not, and like you, we're not working right now.
No.
So even though we're not working, there's still a lot of things that we can do to keep ourselves busy. And the first thing is before you go to bed that night, or when you get up in the morning with your cup of coffee or your cup of tea, write a list.
Yeah.
It's a wish list. Hey, what do I want to try and get done today? And you know, even if within that list, it is I want to do 5 to 10 minutes of a breathing exercise. There are so many, like you said, there's so many great apps for that. But there are also, if you don't want to download the apps, there are so many videos on YouTube that you can follow and do things like that. I'm getting a lot of my workouts on YouTube. I just scroll through like, hey, I feel like I want to do abs today, or you know, at home leg day, you know, with cans of beans and a couple pieces of kitchen roll to slide across the floor. Do you know what I mean? Like
This is
there,
a thing as well for people like, and again, me that I've got a couple of dumbbells here and a mat. I've hardly got any of the equipment here, but that there's no excuse. There's so many things you can use. And I spoke to a few people that are doing a lot of training videos online and are actually qualified PTs. And it's like, Bobby, there's never not an excuse to not do it if you're at home. There's always going to be something, like you say, there's cans of beans. Everyone's got a
yeah,
bag. Fill a bag up with things that are heavy, but just put things in so you can make things heavy. It's just as long as you've got that resistance
mm,
or that bit of weight in something. It doesn't have to be a proper dumbbell, but more than
not at
anything,
all.
it's just using what we've got around us. We've got to improvise in these times, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, the biggest thing for me in motivation, y'all know what I look like, you know, when I'm in peak performance body mode, sort of when I'm on Dancing on Ice. And I do allow myself to relax throughout some of the rest of the year because I have to, you know, I'm over 40 now and I've been doing this since I was 9 years old. So I have to be careful with my body. But when I don't feel like working out, like yesterday, I had to allow myself the day, which is the first day that I've had in 40 days of isolation. I laid in bed all day. I shut off. I needed to. And I binged about 3 or 4 different series on Netflix. But like this morning, I was like, wow, I could stay in bed a little bit longer. But I didn't. I got up and I was like, I didn't want to by any means. But as soon as I got up and made my way into the kitchen and put the kettle on, I was like, I'm glad that I did that.
Yeah.
Step one, you're already making yourself feel good about something, as opposed to making yourself or keeping yourself down by not achieving something. I got out of bed today. I'm grateful for that, because a lot of people aren't right now because
Yeah.
they can't.
Yes.
So I think it's finding ways, and it's just kind of reinventing the wheel, you know.
And like you say, obviously, so many of us know you from doing Darts on Ice, and it's something that you're such a professional at, and you've done it since 9 years old. So skating to you is a massive part of your life. I'm
Yeah.
guessing at the moment, because of what we're going through, you're unable to be getting your skates on and being on ice. Is this the longest you've gone without being on ice?
No.
Do you still, so when you're
It's
not in a show, so when the competition isn't on, do you still ever have days, or every now and then do you think, well, I've got to put my blades on and go and have a skate around when we can and we're not on lockdown kind of thing?
Yeah, I used to. Obviously, when I was competing and training for the United States figure skating team, like, it was 8 hours every single day. When we're in when we're in the thick of it with Dancing on Ice, we're doing 14 hours a day some days. But when I'm not on contract right now, when I'm not in a show, I maybe skate once or twice a month just to keep my feet wet. Because, like I said a couple of minutes ago, like, I have to rest my body, because if I maintained that level of activity and that level of sport, I would have a new hip right now. I'd probably have a new shoulder, a knee replacement. I'm very conscious of my energy levels. I'm also very conscious of my body physically, and maintaining it well so that I can continue to do what I love to do. However, um, I've missed it so much, and this is probably the first time in probably about 4 or 5 years, that on the off season, as we are right now, that I've missed it. Normally, I don't. Normally I love the series for what it is, and what we achieved with whoever celebrity that was, and then I allow my brain to kind of go to a new place. But yeah, I've really missed it. So I ordered some rollerblades,
Love that.
and they came in the middle of last week, and I've gone twice now. I've rollerbladed twice, which is, if you're able to skate, it's a great form of exercise.
Is it a similar kind of technique? If you can roll a blade, can you ice skate and vice versa?
Ish, yeah. It's a little bit like, we always ask people, if you can ski, you can probably ice skate, and vice versa. It's the same sort of concept of edges and leaning on the outside of the foot or the inside of the foot, your balance between your feet and or left or right foot. So it's similar, but it's a great way to exercise, since we only have 1 hour a day to be able to get out there and do something, rather than just walking or running, or, and that's the thing too, when we were talking about working out, change up your routine, because your body gets used to the same thing, and then it doesn't become effective. So it is trying to maintain different things, maybe one day get your heart rate pumping, then the next day do a little bit more concentrated on building the muscles. The day after that, go for a really long walk. So it's keeping your brain fresh as well.
So you're obviously used to year in, year out. You've been on Darts on Ice since the original series, which is iconic. So the longest serving professional on there.
I am.
So
I'm as old as ice.
in your opinion, babe, do you think anyone can be taught to skate? Can everyone skate, or are there certain people that just will never be able to skate?
Well, we have to look at it's a whole spectrum. So we have to look at the Todd Cardys of the ice, right? Series 1, he trained just as much as everybody else, and or what? Oh shoot, what was his name? I forgot. But anyway, so the Todd Cardys of the ice. But then you have the Perry Kileys of the ice, who won, or who was second this year. So it is something that, what is your expectation of, can you skate? Like, I can teach anybody to get across the ice. And we used to do skate camps where we would go around. Actually, we did a couple of last year for some charities, one in Romford. And we did, there were about 20 or 30 participants with that, and all different levels. And some people are so scared to get on that ice the first time, they are literally shaking in their boots. And I take them by the hand and I say, by the end of this hour and a half, I promise you, I will get you walking and slowly skating to the other side of the ice. Truth be told, every single time. So it is the testament. There's so many there are so many sort of like hidden things within ice skating. It's what we were talking about too earlier, is that taking that first step is always the most scary. And that's the same thing that I tell all of my celebs the first day they get on the ice, is this first day, this first couple of steps, or these first couple of steps that you take are going to be the hardest and the scariest, and it does get easier from here. And that goes with anything in life. You know, think back to the first day of school. I hated the first day of school. You know, so I think I would like to say that I can teach 99% of anybody out there how to ice skate. Yes.
And
including you.
Including me. Well, who knows? Because this year we had the very first male-male partnership, didn't we?
Yeah.
How did you find that? How did you feel about that? And how did it all come about?
Wow. I got the phone call in September from our exec producer asking me if I would ever be interested in doing something like this. And I said 100%. Absolutely. I think, you know, the world is ready for it. Our community is ready for it. And it was an absolute no-brainer. And then she said, well, I'll be in touch in a couple of weeks to kind of give you a little bit more information. And so at this point, I'm going through my head, who could it be? Who could it be? And your name had come across. Like, there were so many different people that kind of had come through my head as far as who could this celeb be? And literally, I'm not joking, 2 hours later, she phoned me back. And she said, I've spoken to the heads of the network. It has to be you. And I want to tell you so bad who it is, but I'm not allowed to. And I said, oh, come on, just tell me. And then she blurted out, it's Ian H. Watkins from Steps. And I went, oh my God, amazing. A bit serendipitous, because I skated with Lisa Scott Lee Series 2.
Oh, how funny.
So I've had 2 people from Steps.
You've had 2 steps.
I've taken 2 steps, yeah.
Because it's so funny, because the year prior to that, I was on This Morning, and towards the end of the interview, Holly and Phil had said to me, so Bob, next year, would you be up for doing it? Would you ever do the show? And I was like, I love the show. I'm a fangirl for the show. I watch it. I support it. I'm on social media. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
I was like, if I ever do it, ideally, I really want to do it with a man. And it had never been done at this point.
Yeah.
And for my reasoning for that is I just feel like, A, because it'd never be done. And B, for me, I would feel so bad. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I think male celebrities have it just slightly harder because they have to do all the lists for the girl partners. And because you're doing them lists, there's a lot of pressure in them. And I personally, if I was paired up with a female partner who would be the professional, if I did it wrong and I dropped her or I hurt her or I spun around for an head banger and she hurt her head, I would be so devastated. And I think I would just cry on the ice. Whereas if I could dance with a man, I'd be like, do you want to spin me, babe? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You lick me.
Well, there's 2
I
things to that.
Happening, it was like, oh, there's going to be a man. I thought, oh, maybe I'm going to get a phone call here, as I suggested this last year. Didn't get the call. Who knows? Never say never. But I'm not a really good ice skater. In fact, I'm not very good at all. But maybe you can train me.
Well, I will most definitely love to train you. But I think there's 2 things. We're comparing apples to oranges when you compare a male skater to a female skater, especially within the genre of dancing on ice. The thing about it is the boys seem to skate easier or skate better, or that they might have a little bit of a harder time when lifting the girls. However, because the male frame is typically larger than a female's frame, they actually stick to the ice better. So it's easier for them. They learn quicker than the females do because of that, because of the weight, because of the mass of the body. If we go back and look at Series 1, I had Bonnie Langford, who is literally the size of my pinky. And it took her a really long time to learn the basics because she's small, she doesn't stick to the ice as easy. There's a lot of science that go involved when it comes to ice skating. However, as we saw with Ian this year, or H, on Dancing on Ice, he was the first person to say after the first day where we did some lifts that it's hard for the girl to be lifted. it's completely a completely different technique to the man who is lifting, or the celebrity man who's lifting the pro girl. But at the same token, too, a female celebrity being lifted by a man is just as difficult, but in a different way.
In a different way. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose you've still got to know how to hold yourself, or how to, yeah. So I
You
guess it's
yeah,
not all about pointing your skate to the air.
well, once you get up there, yes, it is. But
Yeah,
it's, like I said, it's quite scientific. So if I was stood next to H right now and just tried to pick him up without him doing anything, I wouldn't be able to. Like, I'm not that strong. But with the momentum of our mass as we're moving across the ice, and then the timing of him taking a little bit of a jump to me getting underneath his weight, picking him up and following that momentum up into the air, I'm then able to pick him up and then hold that. But once I hold it, then it's his job to make sure that the timing's correctly, that he jumps high enough, that he holds himself in that lift, and then he has to land. Because if I can't land him,
can't land him. Yeah, of course.
yeah. So it
Never thought of it like that. So it is very scientific and almost mathematic. The
yeah,
time. A lot
absolutely. And
about
I
this ice skating malarkey.
I mean, it's not just all like big wigs and beautiful
And
diamanti.
spray tans every Sunday in the Diamante costumes.
Don't even go there. Look at those roots, girl.
I ain't had my hair cut since pre-lockdown. Honestly, I've had top knots. I was this close. I even done an Instagram poll, Matt, going, do I just shave this hair off? And thankfully, people said no. Because
I have, I just bought today. I bought a clippers.
Are you going to shave yours?
I don't know if I'm going to shave it all off, but I definitely got to do something to it. Yeah.
It looks
I
good a
don't know.
little bit longer though.
It's all right. It's crazy long right now.
So you've been there since series one. Obviously, the first time you'd ever danced with a man. As a whole and as an experience, did it feel different to dance, apart from the obvious, but did it feel different, that series, for you, because you was with a man? And was it an enjoyable series for you?
Oh my God, it was absolutely incredible. I think it renewed my love for the show. It kind of put another fire under my seat and in my belly for what I do. It made me think outside the box for what was possible, because it had never been done before. And I seem to be the guinea pig when it comes to ITV and giving me the different sort of people. I had Heather Mills. So I skated with Heather Mills, who, if you're not familiar with who she is, she's an amputee. So God, that was probably 12 years ago now. So it was another situation to where I had to teach somebody a completely new technique. And it was the same thing with H this year. Is I had to come up with things that I was very sensitive to our audience. I love the fans of Dancing on Ice more than anything, because they've allowed me to come into their living room for the past 15 years now. And because it is a sensitive subject for a lot of people, seeing two men skate together, I didn't want to shove it in their face. I wanted to be very sensitive, and I had a lot of talks with our producers and with the network in regards to the direction that we took our skating. And we were all in agreement, and they stood behind me 100%. So, and that's why I think we didn't do sort of a romantic piece, because for me, it didn't feel right. I think outside of the sexuality, but behind H and I, him being a gay man, me being a gay man, I didn't want that to necessarily come into play this time, because it's the first time that we're doing this. So let's just be sensitive and let's ease ourselves into mainstream, because our community for the past 100 years has been shut up in a box. And if we come out screaming and hollering and this, that, and the other, and throwing and waving the flag, we can scare people, and it makes people uncomfortable. So I was very sensitive to that. And yeah, I mean, I think it was something that I absolutely loved. And I will say this, that first performance that H and I skated on that first show, the amount of love that I felt in the room, I've never felt before in my history on this show, or ever before in my life. It was something that was momentous. It was something that I would hope and imagine that heaven would feel like. It was incredible.
That's lovely. So would you say you would definitely be open to having a male partner again?
Only if I got to select, and you're on the list.
Am I on the list? Who else?
Yes.
Love that. Are you going? Who knows? Me and you could be.
Yeah.
Come January, dancing round the ice. Just
Who
me doing it
knows?
with me. Will you be coming back in January?
We'll see. I think there's so much up in the air right now. As you know, there is no TV work.
Yeah.
So I think everything's been put on hold for the minute. I know that our producers are still, they're working from home. They're started working on the next series. If I'm involved in that, that would be absolutely incredible. If not, then, I understand it. It's sometimes time to move forwards. But I love my job. I love what I do. And I love the fans of the show. And it's been a part of my life for almost half my life now. So I think we'll see. But I know just as much as you do.
So they're currently working from home. So even if this lockdown went on a little bit longer, maybe they could just push it back a little bit, because it's such a loved show, and there's not many shows that you can sit in a living room with 3 or 4 generations of family, from grandchild or great grandchild to mum to nan to great nan, and all get something from it. There's very few
Yeah.
shows that you can do that with, and I think that's the beauty of Dancing on Ice. So even if it had to be pushed back, because when you start your rehearsals, you start in October, you said, don't you? Does any of
Yeah.
that get filmed, or is that just when the
Yeah.
celebrity finds out?
So the celeb would normally find out sometimes in August or September or so, because there's a lot of filming that they do with them prior to them getting their professional. And then we normally get them the middle of October, end of October-ish. So, and then we have 8 to 9 weeks of training with them, which then takes you up to Christmas. And then as soon as the new year hits in January, then we start what you get to see on TV is all the live shows. But I think yeah, I don't know what's going to happen this year because there's still time for it to happen on schedule. But depending upon what happens with the rest of the world and with the television industry, I think, I think it's such a loved show in this country. Even with the likes of Britain's Got Talent. There are very few reality competition shows left right now. So I would be very surprised if ITV didn't bring it back. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And we've seen, and I wondered how it would work the other way round. So, 1 year we had ex-Strictly Professional James Jordan
Mm-hmm.
had come to do Dancing on Ice. Would you ever be tempted to do Strictly as the celebrity? And do you think
Yeah.
it would work each way? Because I remember hearing James in interviews and stuff saying it's a very different ball game, dancing in a ballroom compared to dancing on ice. Do you
Yeah.
think you would be able to dance in a ballroom compared to not being on ice?
That's a great question. I would love to do something to where I'm being taught because for my entire career, I've always taught somebody how to ice skate. And looking at James and what happened with James is when he first got on the ice, he was not very good at all. Dancers are always taught and told to stand up completely straight. They have to push against the floor. As we saw with Bonnie, and that's why Bonnie Langford had a really hard time learning how to ice skate, is because in skating, everything is about being 2 to 3 inches down in your knees. You have to have a very soft, almost think of it like when you're driving a car and the shock absorbers in the wheels. That's what your knees are basically are when you skate. I would love to, jump over to Strictly and have a little play with a pro over there. I don't know if my profile is big enough to do anything like that, but regardless, I think I would love to do something where I'm taught to do, to take myself out of that comfort zone because I'm so comfortable as a professional ice skater that to be able to learn a new skill is, it would just be a dream come true. So yeah, we'll see.
Definitely. And I think, like you say, unfortunately, with everything that's going on, I mean, so many people, there's hundreds of thousands, millions of people unable to work, and telly's no exception. There's hardly any TV being made at all, apart from news channels and stuff like that. So,
and Gemma show.
yeah. But I feel like what is coming through the ranks at the moment, especially in isolation, because I think they turn into social media, which is amazing, hence this isolation with the nation. Also, podcasts are really becoming popular. And I know you've got a podcast,
I
an
do, yeah.
amazing podcast. Will you tell the viewers exactly a little bit more about it?
Well, thank you. Yeah, so the podcast is called The Truth, The Gay Truth, and Nothing But the Truth.
Love it.
So it is, it's just a really fun and safe space for everybody. The title might make you think that it's 100% LGBTQ plus, but it's not. I just wanted so year after year after year after year of doing Dancing on Ice, and then especially when I came out about 4 years ago to, the media and in public, I had been out to my family for probably about 12, 15 years or so. But once I had come out, I just would receive every single series, hundreds of messages from anybody within the LGBTQ plus community, to straight people, to people just not sure what they are, saying there isn't enough platform right now. There aren't enough venues for us to feel like we're safe. There aren't enough TV shows. And when ITV allowed me to skate with H this year and be the first same-sex couple, I felt it was really time, and I wanted to use the exposure of that in a very smart and positive way. So I had been talking about doing a podcast for about a year and a half or so, but I'm just a guy from Minnesota who lives in California who ice skates. Like I don't think I've got a lot of chat. Obviously, we can tell I do, because I haven't shut up for 45 minutes now.
I think you can chat all right, babes.
But it just was all a bit, again, word of the day is serendipitous. I was out to dinner with a friend of mine who was my manager, and she had received an email from Global, who have Heart FM and Capital FM, and they're the UK's #1 producer of podcasts. And they had approached me, obviously off the back of me skating with H, to develop some sort of idea in a podcast. And I had written a television show, a treatment for a TV show a couple of years ago, that same sort of thing, just talked a lot about the LGBTQ plus issues that we all deal with. It was a little bit like this, so it was just more chat. It was very informal, which got put on hold on Netflix because 3 years ago, nothing except for RuPaul's Drag Race was on TV that was LGBT. Do you know what I mean? So I revisited that format and that idea when Global approached me to do a podcast. And so it just all kind of came together, and it was just absolutely beautiful the way that it all sort of conspired. And we've had some great guests on. Last week or a couple of weeks ago, we had John Berryman on. Last week we had James Longman, who is a news correspondent here in the UK that reports back to the States. And it was really interesting to get his viewpoint on everything, because he's interviewing the frontline workers. He's literally in the middle of this war right now. And a little exclusive for you, the podcast that lands tomorrow, Georgie Porter is on there from Hollyoaks, and it is absolutely hilarious.
That's going to be a good enough, Georgie.
Yeah, it's a really fun and safe place for everybody to just, shut the news off for 30 minutes and just come have a laugh with us. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. I never thought that I would be into podcasts, but it's a really cool place to come and to work in. And I record it here in my bedroom. I put my microphone in a little cardboard box that has a towel around it. Like it's totally bare bones, because we can't go to the studio right now. But and that's what I love too about seeing other people in the industry and how they're modifying and sort of changing their lifestyles. Like Laura Whitmore, who I love to death. Her podcast, she does exactly the same thing. Like, we're showing the real realities of, regardless of where you work and what you do, we're all in the same boat together.
Yes, so I've just finished my first series. I was doing one with Olivia Atwood. And, we had done our first 8 episodes all in a lovely studio. Obviously, lockdown kicked in, and we still had 2 eps left of the first series. So again, like you, I was sat on a kitchen table with things on shoe boxes, microphones here. I had like Skype here so I could reach. But you know, we have to make do, and you know, it's so important
Got
to
my mic ready.
yeah, you might. But it's so important to still have that content being made for people
Yeah.
now more than ever when people are doing their exercises. And what I think is great about podcasts as well is you can just have it on in the back while you're cleaning the kitchen. You could be tidy, organising your wardrobes. I mean, anything. You don't even have to
Yeah.
visually be watching a screen. And that's why I love a podcast. So
Yeah.
I can't wait for your one tomorrow.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's a lot of fun. Georgie is absolutely hilarious. And she's even more funny when she's, well, because we're all a little bit bored right now. And just to hear what she gets up to, because she's such a busybody. She actually lived above me in a building in LA a couple years back when Dancing and Ice was on break. She came out to LA and spent a year and a half. So the stories that we tell is, and on the show that comes out tomorrow, it's
love that.
absolutely brilliant.
So you've kept a very good friendship since
Yeah.
working together.
Yeah. I kind of consider myself a bit of a chameleon. When it comes to the people that I work with, we all speak English, but we all speak a very different language. And that's part of my job with being a professional and trying to get somebody to do something in a very short amount of time, something that's very dangerous, is I have to learn how to speak and communicate to people in their language. And I think through that process, I've been really lucky that I've gotten along with 99% of my pro or celebs that I've ever skated with. So it's I've maintained great friendships with all of them. You know, we've all kind of gone through the fire together, and it's something that when you come out the other end, you know you still have that camaraderie and that friendship and that love for them. So I'm very fortunate.
Oh, thank you so much for doing this, Matt. You're an absolute star. You know I love you. And when this is all over with this lockdown, looking forward to catching up with you properly, because we always have the best times when we see
Girl, we're going out.
We're going out.
I need to go out.
Out. Oh, man, I love you. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're more than welcome. And hello to everybody that's watching.
Hello, everyone. And keep safe, Matt.
Thank you, you too. Thanks for popping my live cherry.
No worries at all. And who knows, Matt? Maybe come January they might see with my legs wrapped around your shoulders, spinning around doing the headbanger.
I hope
love
so.
You, Matt.
I love you too. Bye-bye. Bye.